So you are looking to start your first assisted living and you don't have any experience, right? Like just like us, we had real estate background, we were flipping houses and we're like, "Oh my gosh, the opportunity is fantastic. The potential income is fantastic. We want to figure this out. We know we can build it. We can figure out how to license it. Now, how do we run this dang thing?" Right? Like we were super scared and nervous about it the first time. So you have to learn all of these things, but you don't have to learn it all yourself, right? You can bring in a local manager, an expert, so to speak, who's running that side of things to be able to really run it for you, but then also teach you along the way. So I want to unpack that today and share some of the challenges that we had and then some of really the successes that we had and who you should be looking for if you're trying to hire your first manager.
I think about 6 months before we were planning on opening, we started looking for a manager. And I remember thinking that this was such a daunting task because, again, we didn't know anything about the industry. We just knew real estate. And so I put my feelers out there. I searched different job boards in our area and just kind of looked at the job postings, job descriptions, and how much they were paid. And then we talked about it. Like, okay, what do we like about this? What do we not like about this? How much do you want to pay? So just kind of look in your area, do some due diligence, and be sure that you are, I would say, a little bit better than your competition, but be a little bit, be close in proximity to that number of how much they're paying annually. So put out the ad, and I got a lot of individuals applying for the position. And so it was perfect. I was like, awesome. So it filtered through them all. Again, I didn't know what I was doing. I was looking for experience because we didn't have any. So set up interviews. I did Zoom interviews the first time. And I remember thinking after the first day, I don't know if we're going to find someone for us. Like the individuals were just not our culture. They just weren't our people. And it was difficult for me on my side, being the interviewer, that I didn't know the language. And I think that's what was difficult for me. Was it's almost like me interviewing like someone like a astronaut or something, going to space, and they have their lingo. And so there were certain questions I didn't know how to ask because I didn't know the systems and the strategies of assisted living in general, right? And so it was a learning process for me. I learned a lot through that. But I think that it's an important step for you as an owner to do those interviews and to see what's out there, see who's out there, and see if that individual is going to fit within your culture that you're trying to create within your home.
Really, we're trying to bring on experience. And I think that's the biggest pro here. But the biggest con you touched on was that culture. And it's going to be really hard to find someone who has all that experience, but that can match your culture. So I want to kind of talk through that and maybe kind of a pros and cons way. So we ended up hiring a big box director. So this person had lots of experience running these for big corporate, right? And they're at literally like the big smelly facility. And they had done that for a lot of years. So they knew all the ins and outs, right? The paperwork, paperwork can be daunting. So we hired this person early because they can help us get all the licensure paperwork, get all the resident, all the medication paperwork, all that kind of stuff. Because it was literally like speaking French to me. I had no idea what we were even, I could get it from somebody else, pay them, but was it good? I have no idea. Like, who knows, right? Like, so we brought them in early to set up a lot of these systems. All of the resident systems, creating the binders, all of our staff training policies, procedures, right? Like there's so many little details that on the backside of it now, it seems like, okay, this is kind of simple and I understand it and we have processes for these things. But to create all of those processes, it took us months with somebody having experience going through. And then you and I going through and be like, all right, well, that sounds too big box culture, right? Like we don't want to have like that kind of stuff. Let's change it to make it more of our style. So there's a lot of advantages on the pro side to bringing somebody with that experience from big box, but I think really finding that right person can be challenging. And then you may say, well, why don't you just hire somebody from, like the smaller mom and pop style homes, right? Like the RALs, hire a manager there. And honestly, like there's just not very many of them, right? A lot of times when you're doing the dinky little REL, it's mom and pop ran. I mean, like they are literally doing this thing. Sometimes you'll see, hey, somebody has, 2 or 3 of these things and they have a manager, but honestly, that's not really a manager. That's really like a caregiver that they promoted. They're not really doing what our managers are doing, right? Like they don't know the intricacies of all of these things. So I think that it is worth on the front side hiring somebody with all of those experience, even though there's going to be some challenges with really the culture side of it.